Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to our regularly scheduled city council meeting for tonight. If you could all stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Bellinger,
Here?
Mayor Pro Tem Hagan,
Here.
Councilmember Engel,
Here.
Councilmember Walker, here, Councilmember Stroman.
Here. Thank you for that. Next up on our agenda is the consent calendar. These items are considered routine in nature and are acted upon by a single action unless requested by an individual council member or member of the public for special consideration. Is there any item on our consent calendar tonight up here at the council that we would like to pull for future consideration?
No, on this side.
No? Anybody in the chambers have any concerns with the consent calendar? If not, I would take a motion on that item.
I'll move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Next up, staff communications. Who's up first tonight?
We'll start with Celinda.
Thank you.
Our treasurer's report for June. No issues. That's pretty much all that I have.
Everything's on track.
Everything's on track.
Good news.
Nice, easy month.
Awesome.
So the Escalon Police Department is currently one officer short of fully staffed. The two Crown Victorias that were put up for auction sold on publicsurplus.com. One sold for $1,425, the other for $1,300, for a total sale of $2,725. July 4th was pretty standard, called for service, but nothing eventful. An iPhone glitch caused the weather forecast to be 119 to 121. We haven't been hosting cooling centers because we haven't been getting community traction and community engagement with them. A couple people brought that high temperature to my attention, so I figured that I'd host one for that day. Once it was determined that it wasn't going to be as hot, I just kept it just to gauge community interest. Again, nobody showed up, so that's why we haven't been hosting the cooling centers in the heat, because nobody's been showing up.
Chief, a quick question. Do you think that's just because no one's really needing to, or do you think it's because they don't know about it? Like, is it getting out there, in other words?
I think it's getting out there. I think it's just people have other means to cool themselves. They don't want to go sit at the library for
Gotcha.
all day where there's not really a whole lot to do. When at home, it might not be as cool at home, but it's cool enough to be comfortable, and they got their TV and all that.
That's a good thing.
So, yeah. So I just think it's something that we don't really have a need for it in this community. But if you feel that we do, or if I get people requesting it, then I've got no problem putting them on. It's just a matter of we're kind of wasting resources when we have somebody sitting at the library all day and nobody's there.
Makes sense.
So Chief, how did the 4th of July work out?
It worked out good. There was one citation for fireworks. Officer Harrison and Officer Kais were out in the unmarked vehicle driving around looking for people firing off illegal fireworks. They've only were able to locate one person and determine one person that was in possession. And again, multiple complaints, which we always get, and then go out and sit and see if we can figure out who's shooting them off, and you identified one person. And then for the month of June, Officer Palomino had the most arrests with 11, and then Officer DeGiulio led the department in citations with 26. And then the flock report is now integrated. The LPR report's now integrated in with the crime report, so it's not two separate reports. That was Jenny's idea. Just think a good idea. Consolidate things a little bit. And there were 2 stolen vehicle recoveries, 1 boat and one vehicle. And also, not just for the stolen vehicles, it did help Officer Baldonado was able to solve a hit and run based on the LPR. He got a vehicle description and was able to locate the vehicle on Flock through the picture and then determine the license plate and track down the owner and
Great.
solve that.
Glad to see that system working for us.
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
And that's about it.
All right, good evening, Council. For Public Works, to update you on quite a few projects that are currently going on at the moment. Phase 2 sewer line project, all the infrastructure has been completed. They're in the process of laying asphalt down on the Myers roadway. So if everything goes well, hopes end of next week will be kind of completed there. That's with all the line painting and everything down the road, so that's going fairly well. Our Kerrigan Sewer Lift Station on First Street in Kerrigan. I'm sure a lot of people have seen that on First Street. We have First Street closed down periodically throughout the day. We're redoing our lift station there. That seems to be going well. The reason for the road closure, it's a 28-foot pit that we're digging into the ground. It's a sandy soil over there, so it's just for extra precautionary reasons. We don't have much traffic going through there and trying to get it done before school time starts. So, well one, still going well. Actually, tomorrow a team's coming in to do the well destroy on the old well. So things are moving along well there as well. Contractors also started today on our pedestrian crossing on Escalon below in front of the high school, and hope to plan on kind of working over towards the sidewalk on 122 there by Taco Bell and Burger King. So we've had quite a few water leaks in the city here lately, so we appreciate everybody's patience, but I think we've only got one left to catch up on. And everybody also, please keep in mind that it's still dry out there with weeds, so if you could keep those down, we'd appreciate it. And also this Wednesday is our next farmer's market. And then next week starts our Park Feet festivities, starting with our senior luncheon on the 23rd. So make you guys aware of that. Hopefully you can make it. If you have any questions, please reach out. That's it for Public Works.
I have a quick question. I don't know if it's Public Works or Chief, but in reviewing the reports, it seems like almost every night there's a report that the restrooms at the park need to be locked up. Is there any way that we can set up a regular time that they're locked up? Because on the reports from PD.
So that is, every Public Works opens the restrooms in the morning, but so they're not being locked at 5 o'clock when they go home. They're staying open until the parks are closed. And so we have so the officers don't forget and leave them open all night. We have a scheduled incident where every night the incident pops up and it reminds the officers to go lock the restrooms and also do a security check of the park at closing time.
Okay, so it's
we do
just
have
a
a set
standard.
So it's
time.
designed for the officers to go out there and lock them.
Because I read the
Sure.
report and it's like every night there's an incident.
Yeah, well, and it's hard because we can't tell them go at 10 because if they're on a call, we can't
Right.
quite be there at 10. So that's for the reason why you see that. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, just one update. We did receive a question or comment maybe, last meeting about the efficiency of the solar system that the city installed some years ago. So what you have in front of you and on the screens is the last 2 years. The top line is the estimated savings, and the bottom line is the actual savings in each year, 2022, 2023. So you will see that we have exceeded each estimated savings in each of the last 2 years. The estimated savings increases up to about $370,000 in year 20. So it starts at around 160 and gets up to $370,000 in year 20. Total cost to the city was $5.7 million. So we are hitting the estimates as was provided by the company, and we seem to be realizing the savings that they indicated.
Anything else by any department or any other questions here for staff? All right, then we will move on to matters presented from the audience. The public may address the city council on any item that is on the agenda at the time the item is called. The public may also address the city council on any item not on the agenda that is within the subject matter of the city of Escalon. Each speaker is limited to a maximum of 5 minutes. Unused time may not be yielded to another speaker. You may state your name and address for the record, however, it is not required. Due to state law, action will not be taken on an item that is not on the agenda, and except for brief responses, the council is prohibited from discussing any item not on the agenda. If it requires action, it will be referred to staff and/or placed on a future agenda. The determination of whether an item is within the subject matter of the city is a discretionary decision made by the mayor, and that we will open it up to the room here. If anybody has anything they would like to bring to our attention, you're welcome to come to the podium at this time.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Kurt Danziger, just a couple of things. It's been a while since we've gotten a quarterly report on the wastewater treatment plant situation and the drinking water. Thought that was going to be a regular quarterly report done by the city manager's office. I'd like to know when that's going to be happening, what the status is. The real reason I'm here is Murphy Ranch. Reached out to the city, asked them where we are with a town hall meeting to inform all of the property owners and residents of Belterra and the surrounding community how they're going to be impacted by this development. Was told this week that they did have a meeting, and that meeting they discussed certain items there, but no scheduled date has been set yet. I would respectfully request in the near future that we have an actual date so that we can get educational materials out to the property owners, let them know that there will be a meeting and where it will be held, things of that nature. So looking forward to seeing those things here in the real close future. Thank you.
I can address both of those questions just briefly. We are slated to have a quarterly update on the wastewater treatment plan and water project in in August. And yes, we did meet with the project proponents for the Murphy Ranch project, and we expect to have a community meeting in the next month or two, but well prior to any planning commission or city council decision on the item. In fact, the project, the way it's structured, will have two sets of reviews in front of the planning commission and city council. We will have a public workshop prior to the first set of review and considerations.
Good evening. Hi, Sherry. That bad penny that keeps showing up. So last council meeting, you had made a comment about senior lunches. Thank you for drawing attention to that. But I have an update that I would like so that the record is straight on that. At no time had senior lunches gone down to 1 week. They were still Tuesday, Thursday, and they're going to continue to be Tuesday and Thursday. The county had been working on that prior to phone calls from a whole bunch of citizens and yourself. Thank you for that. But they were working on that, and that's been rectified so that Tuesday and Thursday lunches will still stay, intact. There's a modification as far as pricing goes, but there were organizations that also stepped up for the month of July to make sure that Thursday lunches stayed intact. Another comment was, I don't know who spoke to you. Maybe you can tell me later, and I can get a hold of them. But I am a regular attender to the senior lunches. I'm down there all the time. And I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, none of our seniors have only one meal a week. They have the 2 meals, hot meals down there, or they're delivered to those who need them. But they also go home with food. So just to clarify that so that our seniors are being taken care of. I know personally that they're going home with groceries. Maybe not a pre-cooked meal, but they're going home with groceries, and they do have some pre-cooked meals. So Karen is really good about overseeing that. And I personally oversee part of that. So I just wanted that clarified so that you didn't think some of our seniors were being overlooked. Okay, thanks.
Thank you for that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Can I respond to Sherry?
Quickly, sure.
Okay, Sherry, so the council was notified that the meal program was possibly going from 2 meals to 1 meal. So then I reached out to Supervisor Rickman, and the Human Services Director said, we didn't cut down the days, we cut down the number of meals. But I think it's important to note that none of the supervisors knew that the program was cut $413,000 countywide. And so when that was brought up at the county supervisors meeting, they were all completely flabbergasted. But through a little advocacy, probably by you and by Elsa and myself, the entire county program was restored back to the full amount. So
Actually, I'll correct that misinformation. The same information came to me, obviously as a senior rep, that we were being cut to 26. Actually, that was never 100% accurate. What happens is there's 3 funding sources for the senior lunch program. One of those 3 was COVID money. All COVID money across the entire state of California has been removed from all social services programs. So every program's feeling the pinch, including the senior lunch, which will be reduced from 66 people, thanks to COVID, to 56, which is the normal. At that time, though, the state of California had not dealt with its budget. It was still hung up somewhere in the state. Their fiscal is July 1st. So when that money does not hit the pocket, that means, there's no money to fund things. So that was the point that they were called, Karen Corey was called and told, only 26 people will be fed. It wasn't because they were cutting back the program, because that was relayed to me. It's because the funding had not channeled down from California into the pocket. And what they're doing is, instead of having two pockets, they've decided to streamline it into one. Well, whenever the state of California decides to change their process, there's always a hiccup. So there was a hiccup of how the money, if and when it was going to hit. So they thought they were going to have a gap in July. That's what they thought until the money would hit. Several organizations and in the town and residents stepped up and said, no matter what, for the month of July, the seniors will not go hungry. We'll figure something out. Luckily, obviously, the state figured out its budgeting and voted whatever needed to be voted to put it all into one pocket. It will be 56, not 66. That's a COVID thing. There's nothing anybody can do. It is unfortunate because the world is not pre-COVID economy. So those 10 seniors that are being reduced, obviously we're going to feel that pinch. However, again, organizations have stepped up to make sure no matter what, nobody's going hungry. People are taking food home one way or the other, and we're expanding that. That's, that would mean switching over to Escalon Strong hat, so I'm just reporting this as a senior rep hat. So there's a lot of misinformation. I got caught up in it too, went out and did my homework and went, oh, okay. This is just a glitch in the California system until they correct all this. So from a senior rep. We did have some really good presenters come out, by the way, as part of the senior lunch program on Thursdays. The VA came out from French Camp. We actually had a VA rep come out all the way from Sacramento. There were some veterans there that got things taken care of that they would have never gotten taken care of going through the system. They cut through all the red tape for them. We had the Social Security Administration out. We had quite a few out. This week we have El Concilio out. They're trying to teach our seniors, 60 and above, I guess, computer skills. This is a modern world. You want to pay your bills now. Nobody wants to take a check. Nobody wants to see you in person. And that's a hardship on some seniors, as Sherry and I can attest, since we're the ones going into these homes and trying to make sure everybody gets their bills paid and set up. They will be coming out to set up some of our seniors on those programs, because we all take tech for granted and internet access for granted and going online and paying our bills or setting up auto pay. That is not true for a lot of our elderly. They don't even know how to use their phone beyond answering a phone or making a phone call. So when they call PG&E and they say, oh yeah, just take care of it online, they're lost. We had a senior almost have their services turned off just because they couldn't navigate the online world. So Concilio's coming out to help us with that. We are setting up a program through Karen Corey, the senior lunch program coordinator, to try to help seniors register there so that Sherry and I are not having to go into the homes, because we don't have spare time. And we're being constantly called into people's homes to help them with that. I love doing that. I don't mind it, but there's only so many hours in my day, and in her day as well. So we're trying to deal with that. That also said, we've opened up our program of speakers to just let us know when you're coming. If we don't have something scheduled, you're welcome to come. So we're not going to worry about what month it's in. It's year-round. We'll gladly bring anybody in who's an official, county organization to address our seniors. And like I said, we have El Concilio, and they're doing the computer stuff all this week. If you know of anyone 60 and above who probably needs to take that and learn how to sign up for their bills online, they're there from 12:30 to 2:30 for the rest of this week. They started today, and there wasn't a big turnout, but if any seniors that might need that help, that's a great way. And we can always bring them back if we see there's need for them later, so.
How are we advertising for those programs, Elsa?
They go out through the seniors, really. I know the Fun Bunch was informed of it. I don't know if they advertised it or not.
Are you guys putting together a flyer for it?
Yeah, Erin has a flyer. We let her take charge because it was happening in the middle of her program,
Right.
right there at the community center, and we don't have to worry about,
You think it would help if those flyers were shared with the city and the city can put it on the website and put it out on the city's
We wanted to
Facebook
see
page?
what our turnout was going to be before that, because we advertised the other ones, and we got really good turnout, which is good, but it kind of overwhelmed the room. So she was like, let's keep this one down a bit and, tailor it to just the seniors, so we know where to reach all the seniors. There were a lot of seniors there from Heritage House, as well as Almond Grove, and where we plan to repeat it. We might get that one more public if we can move it to the library. That'll be up to El Concilio to decide, because they're the ones bringing in the tablets and so forth. They bring everything in. So we're kind of playing it by ear with them as to how they want to handle that. They actually want more people, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, but you guys have enough tablets for everybody? And they will be coming back just to help us register Karen, help Karen at the food program register. There's a couple of computers going in there that'll be just dedicated for seniors to come in and register during those times that they have someone there during the lunch program, just to kind of help alleviate some of what me and Sherry are going through. So, any other questions?
Thanks.
Okay.
Anybody else? No worries.
All right, I'm going to wear my hat up here for additional effect. And then since it's supposed to be taken off inside, I'll do that. My name is Mike Christensen. I'm the new commander of the Escalon American Legion. I spent 24 years in the Army. I retired as a lieutenant colonel, and I was the commander of Schofield Barracks, Hawaii, responsible for about 45,000 people. I moved here 9 years ago, and about 3 years ago, I decided to join the American Legion because I wanted to talk to other veterans. I was getting old, and all my veteran friends live on the East Coast, so I joined this American Legion and discovered it's really the Escalon High School Alumni Association. So once I got over that, I discovered that someone needed to speak for this American Legion because the numbers are becoming dangerously low. It was formed in 1921, and based on different wars, the numbers grew. One time it was as many as 150 people. We now get about 15 people who come to a meeting and only about 50 registered members. That I felt was important enough for me to get involved, so I'm here to network. I'm not soliciting anything from you, but I want to let you know that veterans are needed. And the American Legion for this community has grown very important because of holidays, parades, the football games, et cetera, et cetera. But really, most importantly, we have been doing the formal burials for many, many veterans in the area. Right now, we go about 25 miles out. We get requests for farther than that. But our numbers are diminishing. Historically, we had about 12 people who would go to something like this so we could have this 21-gun salute, the flags, all the appropriate things. We've discovered we can get by with as few as 4, but it leaves out a whole lot of stuff. So what I want to do is make you the first stop that I promised the Legion that I would become the recruiter going out to find new members, because the Alumni Association doesn't necessarily want to go out and seek other people. So I'm making the stop here mainly to let you know we need your help in finding veterans. It's almost all now Vietnam veterans. There's been significant, many more soldiers, sailors, Air, Coast Guard, and Marines in the community in more recent reasons who have not joined their parents. They're still working. We understand the conflicts, but I would like to solicit from you any efforts that you can generate in letting veterans know we're available. You do have to be a veteran, but as you know, we do meals, we do a lot of fun things, but most importantly, we do the patriotic and important thing for veterans who have passed on. We do a couple of those a week. So right now, the same guys are doing it over and over again. We have 2 or 3 female members and just found a really good one from Manteca. There is no Legion in Oakdale. There's no Legion in Riverbank. There is one in Modesto, but I intend to hit all those communities soliciting membership for the patriotic reasons we exist. Many of us just want to shoot the breeze and have a good time, and we do that at our Saturday meals. We're participating in your big party on the 27th. Because I moved here and didn't know anything about the community, I'm now learning all the things that you do, and I will try to be supportive. That's why I'm here. I'm just looking for help. Any questions?
Mr. Christensen, what was your rank?
I retired as a lieutenant colonel in a colonel's position.
Well, Mr. Lieutenant Colonel Christensen, do you have a reason, do you think, that you haven't had engagement? Like, in other words, I know there's part of it's going out.
Because it seemed to be so local. We do have members from Riverbank and Oakdale, 1 or 2 from each of those communities. My predecessor for 10 years lives in Riverbank. The man who runs the Legion, who is 83 years old, is from Riverbank. I have no idea what we do if he should pass on, because he's the one that knows everything about the building and everything we do. I think it's difficult for people, it was for me, to say what can they do for me? And eventually I joined simply because I wanted to tell war stories with other soldiers. And I do that wherever I go because I always have a hat on, and I find it quite fulfilling to talk to people about their military careers. The wars since Vietnam, and including Vietnam, haven't necessarily been all that patriotic. And therefore, I think wars in the Middle East and other things that we've done, they may feel honored, but they may not feel that this is the environment for them. And I'm looking for people, hopefully, who have served in the last 30 years. We just got an ex-Marine, served for 8 years. He works as a security guard at Doctor's Hospital, I think, and he works 12-hour days, and because security guards are never around, he works a lot more than that, so we don't see much of him. And that's the only young man I have seen join us in my 3 years there. So I'm looking for younger people. I don't object to us older people because we've got all the war stories, but we need young energy, or we will go away like many other legions, and they're dying because of membership. And I felt I could do something about that.
I make a comment, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say thank you for your service, Mr. Christensen.
You're quite welcome. 24 years, 16 and a half years overseas, but I never fired a shot. And
Well,
that's one reason I didn't join groups, because those of us who did not fire a shot feel a little embarrassed. I was diverted from Vietnam the day before I was to fly there. And I'm glad I didn't go. Thank you. Okay, anything else? Any other questions?
No?
I have business cards. I'll hand those out. I'm trying to get technology set up. Someone talked about technology. I lose my temper about 15 seconds into technology. And therefore, my wife does it all, and my daughter, who's just become the president of the Modesto Rotary, is going to set up web pages, and the address that's on my truck outside, because there is nothing at that address at the moment, and hopefully we'll recruit in better ways. Anything else?
No, appreciate the time. Thank you for coming down. And thank you again for your service.
I'll stand by with my cards if anybody wants them.
Yes.
And I don't march because I don't walk very well.
I want to tell you, I will post on Escalon residents that you're looking for veterans as well.
Yeah, please, that's why I came.
We have a large outreach there. Good evening, council members. A couple quick things. I want to thank Sergeant Zambrano, who's not here tonight, but after the last meeting in regards to the cat situation, he was on top of it. The next day, I got a call from Animal Control with some advice and some things to do, and I was very impressed. I also want to say that I just in total have been very impressed by the police department in recent months. I feel, at least in my neighborhood, 4th of July went off without a hitch. We didn't seem to hear a lot of sirens or, police activity. So you guys did great, and we had a fun time as well. And Justin, I'm not sure if you were able to get to the trees and stuff on Sophie Lane. I know that I haven't heard an update, so I did let them know that you are very busy and you have it on your list. One quick thing, the Rite Aid crosswalk, I know that this was a Caltrain issue we were talking about some time ago, possibly looking into getting a crosswalk from Rite Aid over onto the First Street. Is that something that is still looked at? I know Caltrain was part of the problem. But I know there's a lot of people when we have events like Park Feet and the Christmas parade that want to cross over in that area, and it's so unsafe, especially with people just speeding around the corner. Also, I have been asked to ask, I guess Justin would be the question, San Joaquin South Irrigation District pipe that runs through the park and through the backyards of the people on, I think it's Urley and Sophie Lane.
Mm-hmm.
Is that decommissioned or is it in use?
I'll have to look on the map and let you know for sure, but I can reach out and.
If you could, that would be great. It's the one that runs all the way to St. John.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last thing, the finances, I don't know if we currently do this or if this is something we can think about doing. Since you're new, I thought I would ask. It would be really nice to see kind of where we are, maybe even like on a quarterly stance of how we are meeting the expectations of the budget. I think that there's been a lot of turnover in your position, and so, and I have yet to hear anyone with as great just insight that you have brought thus far. And so I would like to see kind of, if it's possible, to kind of know where we are in terms of what we budgeted for. I don't know if that's something we can do or we are already doing and I'm missing it.
That's the plan. So this being July, we're still working on June business, closing up the prior year. So we do have some transactions and things for July, but we'll have a much better picture of the first quarter as we get really towards the end of it. And then as we get towards mid-year, we have a much better expectation of what's going to happen. And that's kind of the way it goes because we don't get the money or the expenses in even amounts. We kind of have to wait and see this kind of big swell of all these year-end expenses that we're dealing with now. And then by that first quarter, we should have something to look at, because right now it's...
Even if it were like at a half year, I think it would be just essential to kind of see that we're on target and make changes accordingly than to wait until the year has passed and we're trying to catch up.
We do a mid-year every year.
Huh?
There's a mid-year budget review every year that we approve.
There is a mid-year?
Yes.
Okay, and that's based off of, like, is it audited or is it just in-house kind of where we're at?
Everything's in-house until the year end hits. So right now, we're getting June together, so that'll go to the auditor. And hopefully they'll get that done within some timely
Got
fashion.
it.
But it takes quite some time for the outside auditor to do that. But we have our monthly reports that we show what we're expending. And then I do hope to have quarterly reports on. It's something we haven't had in recent times, but that will give us a good roadmap for all the supervisors and everything to see what they are spending and how we are meeting that really stringent budget that we have for this year.
Understood.
And also, once our other thing happens with our tax measures and things, we need to really be able to gauge that and see what the effect is. So we are going to be having some quarterly reports. So we just have to have a quarter.
Well, I appreciate all you're doing, so thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
As you may have all known, we had gotten a grant previously for about $15,000 for the purchase of scooters, right? We just got another one for $28,000 worth of scooters. So I was hoping that anyone that runs into seniors out there, Legion, our officers, maybe our fire department or anyone, we got $28,000. I'd rather not give back to the county. And if that means I got to stack up scooters over there in some storage in Delta over there or whatever, I got $28,000 I got to spend the next 30 days on scooters only.
Okay.
Don't ask me why. So if we want to put something out in the city newsletter or website, on wherever, we're about to start purchasing them so that we don't have to give that money back. Like literally, we spent $15,000 on 25. That's how much they cost. It took $15,000 just to buy 25 of them. But we have an additional $28,000 and change to spend on scooters. So, okay, just keep that in mind, please.
Appreciate that.
All right.
May I ask a question? Do you know what the county fiscal letter number is for that funding? They call it a CFL.
Yeah, I can get it to you. I don't have it on me, but
If you
yes.
wouldn't mind, I can maybe look at it and let you know if there's anything else you can use to purchase, like batteries, maintenance items, the tires.
Oh, they come complete. They're completely, they got everything, and they come out. If something goes wrong with them, we've had a couple turned back in, they just get another one. And all we ask is, if, as you may not know, medically, you have to have certain conditions for your doctor to even issue you a scooter. Not everybody who's a senior meets those conditions, so they can't have a scooter from their insurance. So this is a way to get them one, or in between. Sometimes it takes 2-3 years before they get approved. And usually what's happening with some of them, the current 25 that went out, is they found they don't need them anymore. Some because they've gotten a more specific scooter to their condition, and they give them back, and that we rehome it. Or they can't use them anymore because they've reached a condition where they're not safe even on a scooter. And it comes back and we rehome it. That's kind of how and they're allowed to tell us who they think may need it. So it's, and you can nominate anyone. There is no price, there's no purchase, there's no money involved. You get a scooter, it's portable with its battery and everything in it. And if something goes wrong with that scooter, please turn it back in and we get you another one. And now we're gonna have plenty of money, and I don't know I just gotta get scooters out there. We're gonna be like South Park.
Sandoval, just for future reference, you can get you get one bite at the apple, so.
Oh, okay.
Just let you know for future.
One hat, one's the
yes,
other,
exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else? All right, we'll go ahead and close matters presented from the audience and move on to administrative matters. Item 5, adopt resolution number XX24, calling for the placement of a general tax measure on the ballot for November 5th, 2024.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We have the presentation up. So the item before you, as was read, is consideration of a general sales tax measure for the November ballot. This is not something that staff, or I know in our previous conversations with the council, take lightly. This is a hard decision for everyone, and it's really a tough decision. But when faced with, some of the facts, it's something that is being considered for this council to consider placing on a ballot for the electorate to consider. Historically, and you can't speak for every instance in every budget and every council, but a very fiscally conservative community in general do not overreach. In 2008, when times were harder, there was reduction in city force. We, eliminated programs or at least de-emphasized programs, didn't have the staffing levels for some of these programs. And, we certainly deferred repairs and maintenance of key infrastructure and facilities over time to maintain, as fiscally conservative as possible. In the last couple of budget cycles, as we will see in future slides, we have run a deficit where our expenditures exceeded the revenue earned in that year. In this last fiscal budget, the one we just approved less than a month ago, staff recommended to council and was approved a reduction of $515,000 to ensure we did have a balanced budget for this budget. But that, comes at the cost of, again, deferring maintenance and basically maintenance. It defers technology improvements. It really leaves us at kind of a bare bones staff, not really able to accomplish all of the priorities that the community would expect and the council wants to see. And it really leaves us no room for any unforeseen instance. So it really is a bare bones budget. The prior budget expected a delta, a difference between 600 and 700,000 each year. I mean, that is what we expect to receive in revenue compared to our costs. With the loss of Tom Hillier Ford, which was a big hit, we're still increasing revenue just slightly compared to the prior year. But the cost of expenditures are growing quicker than our revenue increases. And so there's a structural deficit in the budget that needs another revenue source to overcome. And so you can see the slide here. These are some estimates. You can see in the 2022-2023 budget and the 2023-2024 budget, there was a big dip. There's a big use of reserve funds. Reserve funds are those rainy day funds that the council would like to tap into should anything occur. The more we deplete those, the less sort of safety net we have as a community. And you can see over the next several years, if nothing changes, although we did balance this budget, if nothing changes, we're getting deep into the minimum reserves the council wants to see and really which is wise to keep. So this speaks to the budget challenges. The dark green is revenue, the light green is expenditures. You can see in every year except this last year and in 2022, 2023 actuals where we really started to actualize the COVID monies. You'll see we're running a deficit at varying levels each of those years. So we worked diligently to at least balance it this year, but we expect, again, with no new revenue source, it continued to run negative. So overall, in terms of any new revenue source, but certainly just in terms of our budget and our community kind of culture, we want to maintain local control. I think that's a big issue. Want to at least maintain the services we currently provide, and in some instances, I know we'd like to see those increased or improved as we talk about, the police department or Public Works. And then, proactive versus reactionary. Would want to maintain a little proactivity so that we're not, kind of behind the eight ball all the time reacting to things that have already happened. So again, not an easy decision, but through these talks, through the last budget cycles, the council has considered and we're bringing forward a local sales tax measure to really, again, meet those three things that we just talked about as our goals, to really be proactive instead of reactive, to maintain local control of the money, and we'll talk about that in future slides, and to ensure fiscal prudence. So what is before the council tonight is a 1% increase in the sales tax. Again, that would be placing it on the ballot for the electorate to vote in November. This 1% could equate, it's estimated to equate to about $900,000 each year. So you'll remember 600, 700,000 is what we believe the structural deficit to be. So this would, just get us above that number with a little cushion to either put into reserves or improve service or start, knocking down some of the deferred maintenance. So it's really focused on maintaining what we have, but maintaining public safety, maintaining our fiscal stability, maintaining our infrastructure, which, we've kind of had to push off over the years, maintaining recreation programs, maintaining and improving our parks, and then, our drinking water. So we look at the current sales tax rate. The current sales tax rate is 7.75. Of that, 6% goes to the state. Another 0.75 goes to Stanislaus County, and then 1%, and we'll look at what that means in real dollars, 1% is maintained by the city of Escalon and all the dollars that are generated here. So in real dollars, what that means is the city generated $8.14 million in sales tax last year. 6.3 million of that goes to the state directly. Some of that then trickles down, but very, very little dollars trickle down of that 6.3. Another 778,000 goes to the county. Very little of that trickles down to Escalon. And what Escalon is left with of the 8.14 million is 1.05 million. That equates to about 20% of our general fund budget. So any local measure is called a transaction and use tax. There are two types. There is a general tax, and that is broadly distributed. It's not dedicated to a certain use. That requires 50% of the electorate plus one vote to approve, whereas a special tax requires 66, a supermajority requires 66% of the public to approve that. So again, but the base rate in the state is 7.25. We have a rate of 7.75, which 0.5 of that is from the transportation sales tax that was approved nearly 30 years ago now. Any use tax, of course, must be approved by the voters. Do want to call out, if the council chooses to put it on the ballot for the electorate to understand, just like right now, the new tax would exclude purchases such as groceries. Those are non-taxable, the unprepared and some prepared foods. It is not included in prescription and medical expenses, real estate transactions, your rent or your utilities, and any, sort of personal services and labor. So want to, reiterate that it is not applicable to groceries and medical expenses. So others around have certainly approved and kind of, controlled their destiny, have approved sales tax measures. Ripon, standing alongside us, are the lowest in the region at 7.75. Riverbank, just a touch above at 7.875. But the rest of the communities kind of in this area, Oakdales, Lodi's, Lathrops, Manteca's, Modestos, all in the 8s and high 8s, and then Stockton at 9%. So not uncommon, certainly in this area, to see an increase in sales tax. I think perhaps a slide was missed, but just want to again reiterate that if a sales tax measure is produced and $900,000 is generated, every dollar of that would go directly to the city of Escalon. It would not be dispersed across the state or the county or anywhere else. Every dollar produced in that local sales tax measure would go here and be utilized and prioritized by this council and this community. So the item before you, again, is really to call for an election consolidation with the county to place a measure on the November 5th ballot. Of course, we will inform the public throughout in various medias and ways on the measure. City proposes to hold some meetings, create a website, and really get the information out through our socials in any way we can, if approved. And then let the voters decide if this is what's right for the community. So with that, yeah, I'd be happy to answer.
Just before we get to the discussion and questions, can you explain for everybody, I know there's rules regarding how high the sales tax can go above the state rate and how that could impact what we can do, just so that the community is informed on that?
Yeah, so the standard statute is up to 2% above, so the max is 9.25. But if you just Google it, you'll see that there are a lot of cities that are above 9.25 because they've lobbied the state for special legislation to go above 9.25. But absent getting a special blessing, so to speak, from the state, you're capped at 9.25.
And just to kind of,
and actually, sorry, I should also make very clear that 2%, the difference between the 7.25 and the 9.25, which is 2%, that's what I'm talking about, because everyone starts at 7.25 and you can go up to 9.25. That 2%, by the way, is any combination of city or county tax. So I think you mentioned the transportation tax earlier. That's a county tax, correct? Mm-hmm. So that 0.5% of the county tax, which obviously the Escalon sees probably a very small percentage of that overall tax back in Escalon, that eats into that 2%. And so there are some jurisdictions where the county will just eat away until they take a majority of that 2%. It certainly happens. So it's 2%, whoever gets there first, so to speak, between the city and the county in any jurisdiction.
That's a quick question. So at the 775, what we're currently at, excuse me, in that gap there of that 2% you're talking about, is it fair to say then at any point the county can come in and actually claim that percentage then?
Absolutely. It's
essentially, we wouldn't get those local funds, but we'd still pay the same rate.
Absolutely. It does happen. I'm not saying it will or whatever. That's for people outside of us to decide, but it absolutely can happen. It does happen.
Thank you.
Question?
Please, it's open discussion. Questions here for us, yes.
So, Jalen, obviously the city attempted a sales tax measure 4 years ago and it failed. How is this ballot measure different than the one that failed previously?
a couple things are different. The last cycle was on a primary election, not the national election. That can affect measures in various ways, voter turnout and other matters. So this is on a national election, not a primary election. That will certainly help. I would say the biggest thing is seeing the hard numbers that are represented in the budget and seeing it, sort of cycle over cycle now, and it not being an immediately fixable. I think that speaks to the issue. I know in the last cycle also we were running along with the school district. And I think the school district has planned to go this time as well. But again, it's the budget, and I think that's why the council, at least what is shared, has been, willing to even consider that, is because there is a structural deficit in the budget.
Other questions here? Well, if we don't have any questions to the crew, let's open up to the public, and we might have some other questions after that. But if we have questions for the public, please come to the podium with your questions. Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, just to clarify, we're at 7.75 with state and county. That puts us at 7.25. There's a special tax right now of 0.5%. Is that going specifically to Escalon?
No, the
County
7.5 is a county tax, so Escalon will probably see pennies
Okay,
on the
and
dollar.
then the state and the county, we don't see that either?
We see small percentage of it. I think there was a
It
slide.
was like we get 18, was it $8 million in revenue, we get $1 million of it.
Okay, so one of the things, I just want to make sure, you said, Jalen, that one of the things would be to maintain the police, like funding for police, was that, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I looked back at the ballot from 4 years ago, as was mentioned, and the majority voted yes. I mean, it was defeated because there had to be 2/3. So there's another option, you're saying, other than going with the 2/3?
Yes, and that's what the proposal is before us, the 50% plus one.
Okay,
The
so it would
general
just be
sales
if
tax.
it got the majority vote, then it would good. Okay, so then I would challenge our council and encourage you all to either add 0.25% to that, just as someone coming from the Bay Area and knowing what sales tax really is like, and take that additional 0.25% strictly for our officers and maintaining not their equipment budget or anything other than staffing so that we can retain our officers and stop losing them to neighboring cities. I think that I understand that our city needs money to thrive and stay afloat, and I understand, and I am in full support of this 1%, being a taxpayer myself. However, I don't like the portion of just maintaining the police, because we're doing that now and we are losing them at a rapid rate. And I think that we need to step up our game in taking care of our first responders. And so I would either request that the council look at even a portion of the 1% going specifically to the police, and or raising it even more and giving that difference to our first responders.
Thank you.
I think you guys are on the right track about the taxes, but I think this is the second part. We have lost some of the businesses that would be taxed for our purchases. We lost the one on Jackson that sold clothes. Now we're losing Butler's Pantry and possibly that children's one. Those would be the ones that are taxed. So we need to do something to bring these businesses and keep them in our town. We can't just have beauty shops and gas stations and fast food places. So we need to do something to keep these places and build our city to where people have shopping so you could tax them. I think that's the second part we need to really work on.
Hi, Frank, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Her heart's in the right place, but if you take any part of this 1% or even an additional 0.25% and target a certain part of the city, isn't that transactional and require a 66% vote?
Yeah, as soon as you dedicate any of the funds, they're committed, it turns it into a special tax because it's going to be used for special purposes. So it would take that trigger of 2/3.
So your heart's in the right place. I want to talk about the last increase here when we went for a 0.5% for the police department. First thing that killed the measure was the city council. They weren't all behind it. If you guys aren't all behind it, I mean getting out and selling it, not just sitting there and hoping things happen. If you don't go sell it, don't even bother, because nobody's going to know. This presentation tonight on the budget, as good as it is, how many people in the city know about it? They hear little bits and pieces, you know, that, oh, maybe we're in trouble. You got to sell this thing. You got plenty of time to do it. You know, yard signs got to go up. You got to have meet and greets. You got to go out to the different citizen groups, you know, sell this thing. I'm for it. I don't want to see us, you know, going down under. I was for the last one. But we had a town hall meeting at over in the community center, and there were only 2 city council people that spoke. You know, 1 didn't show up, 2 didn't say anything, and 2 were behind it. And then the people that were there were us, you know, people that are here now. So it's got to get out, got to educate the public, put it in the water bill, you know. If you need to have some kind of meeting to get it out and sell it, you do it. Because even at 50%, people are going to need to be sold. So that's what killed the last one. Also, the city was, the school district was putting up a bond, and they were competing. So there was a problem with that there, too. 1%, is that all go to the city, or does the...
All of it.
Okay, the county doesn't get a...
Doesn't get a dime.
Okay. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Just to clarify, what are our rules of ability to sell this out in the public as council?
Yeah,
members?
so
Can you
good
clarify
question,
the
and I
point
think
for all of us.
it's good for the public to know. The council, the city, the FPPC rules, as you may know, they don't allow the city to sell it, so to speak. We're not allowed to advocate for any measure, any political measure, whether it's a local tax measure or it's for the national election. There's just, we as a city can't advocate for any position. What we can do is educate and inform. And so I think in that spirit, what you're communicating out, absolutely they can. Individual council members can, in their own individual private capacity, exercise a little bit of liberty, but it's very difficult to walk that line because the state really does not appreciate cities advocating. So what we've tried to do tonight is present the information as neutrally as we can, consistent with those guidelines. But individual members, staff, and even council members can do some of that on their own, but it has to be very clearly as their private individuals, not as the mayor of the city, not as the mayor pro tem, that kind of thing. And then staff, for example, can to a certain extent, but they have to do it after hours. They can't wear cities, you know, all that kind of stuff. So just, it's good for all the public to know that there are some limits on that approach.
Just real quickly, the last city council, even though maybe they weren't out in the streets selling it, there were people bad mouthing it. So if you have that intention
Yeah.
there, again, don't do that.
And actually, advocacy goes both ways. So you really can't advocate either way. You know, just want to make that clear.
Or against, can't do either.
Right.
Yes.
Can I just ask you, is there?
Shares, I mean, it's up to you. It's
Yeah,
up to you.
go ahead, that's fine, go ahead.
Sorry,
That's
just,
good.
I was reading the last ballot and the way that it was worded. I
May-
didn't see why.
Hey, do you want to just come up here then? if
That's
you're
fine,
gonna
come
do
to the
that?
podium. That's fine. That's fine.
I was reading the 2020, what do you call it?
Ballot question?
Yes. It was worded not very direct as to what the money was being used for. So
Yeah.
is Jalen or the attorney, is this somebody that would be writing specifically? Because we have a big platform on Escalon residents,
Yeah.
and we can get this out. But I think people need to be able to understand what it is that it's saying.
Yeah. Good question.
Just have it clear for, you know.
Yeah, I think Jalen can probably work on getting, you know, some educational materials that we already have. You know, that's probably the best way to kind of help educate. There will be an impartial analysis that will be as dry as 3-day-old toast. I'll
But that's
admit
good. It's
that
just
I won't have to
fact-based,
write.
right?
That'll be fact-based.
Yeah.
That will also come out but I think Jalen can give you some of the materials that he has tonight for sure to educate.
But as members of the community, we can go out and
Absolutely,
promote this. and,
absolutely. Yes,
you know, all the reason why it is good for our town.
absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Gabriella,
Yes.
The wording is
the
on
wording
the
is on the
screen.
There
screen.
you go, look on the screen there, that's what we're,
I just went,
There it was.
it's thinking, give it a sec. There we go. Out of memory.
Okay.
So we can't say it here.
Yeah, my only concern is people not having specific intellect or not comprehending, and so I always say you have to explain things that a 5-year-old can understand. So I think if it's too wordy or if it's just too in-depth, people just
Yeah.
may not want to vote for it because they don't understand what it
Yeah,
is.
fair point, fair point. Thank you.
Another thing that I think might have a little conflict, I don't know if all of you know, they're going to be putting ACA 1 and ACA 13 on the ballot. So they're going to be trying to go around Prop 13, and on the side, they put our bonds. They are going to try to change that to where it can be passed at a 55% vote. And they already have a $200 billion bond to put on there for low-income housing if that passes. And ACA 113, that will put it in the Constitution, so we cannot change it back to the majority vote. So that's some things that will be clashing there. Because that's going to be our property value will be taxed on and rents will go up. They're going around.
Any more public comment?
Just a typo. I think it says adopt a 1 cent sales tax.
That's,
Maybe 1%.
well, it's actually 1 cent. 1 cent and 1%, it's the same thing. Because it's 1 cent on every dollar.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
So I was just remiss in answering your question, Councilmember Stroman. Another thing that is different is we did go out to the public early. I think it was in February. We did a survey of nearly 400 likely voters in the next election, Escalon voters in the next election, to really gauge the interest. And we saw in the 70% range support for the measure. First, an identification that there is a fiscal need, and then support for the measure at the 1%, even just slightly higher or lower than the 0.5%. So we did see broad. Now, some people may say, is 400 a lot? We have a company that helped us with this. They do these across the state every single year. This was a very good turnout for the electorate in the city of Escalon. It creates a really representative sample of the electorate.
Any other questions or comments or concerns one way or another here?
You close it, is that for the public or?
Let's go ahead and close the public comment. Thank you for that reminder. Thank you. Public comment is closed at this point, so back to the council. If we have no other questions, comments, or concerns, we can take a motion on this item.
I have just a, sorry, Councilmember Engel has something first.
I'd make a motion to adopt resolution XX-24 and XX-24 and XX-24 to approve the following.
You could just
A
say,
call.
sorry.
Please, Frank.
I was gonna say, you could just say approve the 3 resolutions as presented if you would rather do that.
Before we
Yeah,
take a
that's a lot
motion.
less to read.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. What Frank said.
Just trying to make a comment.
So we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second on that?
I'd second that.
And you had a.
I have a comment.
Yes, please.
And my comment is, no one likes taxes to be raised. No one. But if this sales tax measure goes on the ballot, I can't speak for the other 4 members of council, but the city of Escalon needs this for the financial stability of our city moving forward. Personally, I think it's an absolute travesty that of $8.14 million, we only see $1 million of that. 6.3 goes to the state of California. And what do we have for it? What do we have to show for it? Absolutely nothing. They can't even put our roads back to the way they are on 120. They continue to ignore us regarding the stoplight at Brennan. So we're $6.3 million of our sales tax goes to the state of California, and we get nothing. So if this passes, I think it's really important to remember that the anticipated revenue of $1.95 million comes to the city of Escalon and stays in the city of Escalon. The state of California cannot touch that money Yes, they're my dollars, they're your dollars, but they're our dollars, and they will stay within the city of Escalon. Thank you.
Right. So we have a motion and a second on this item. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you for that. Up next, council communication and future agenda items. I believe Councilman Stroman, you're item 6, the agenda item request, so you can go first with this and your communications for the night.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, brought this up at the last meeting, and back in late May, I was contacted by the San Joaquin County District Attorney's Office regarding their asset forfeiture grant program. So what this asset forfeiture grant program is that anytime and Chief, you may probably speak to this a little better, but anytime that there is a seizure of assets, whether that's through drugs or any other criminal activity, they get money. And this pot of money is basically sitting at San Joaquin County, and they give the money back to local communities within San Joaquin County, and it's geared specifically for activities for children, to help promote anti-gang activity, help keep kids off the street, improve youth programs, et cetera, et cetera. And so they reached out to me and asked, would the city of Escalon be interested? And I asked what the criteria was for, or what the criteria to apply for this grant, these grant funds are, and they said, you write a letter, you can request up to $25,000, you tell us how you're gonna use the funds, and we'll grant you up to $25,000. And so I had a conversation with Mr. French, and at the same time as this was going on, one of my personal friends, Detective Sergeant Sean Dodge from the Modesto Police Department, he's very active in a program called the Healthy Room Project. And so for those of you that don't know what the Healthy Room Project is they go into low-income homes where kids are sharing bedrooms, they don't have a bed, they don't have a desk, they don't have, it's not a really good living situation, and they basically come in and do a complete room makeover for these kids. And so at the same time that I heard from the San Joaquin District Attorney's Office, Detective Dodge asked, hey, I've been trying to, I know that you have a new police chief. We really want to expand the Healthy Room Project into the city of Escalon. What do you think? And so myself and Chief and SRO Harrison and Mr. French had coffee, and SRO Harrison was already 10 steps ahead of all of us in his job as a school resource officer. He has reached out to the school district and all the schools that he goes to, and has 5 families already lined up for this first round. And so we said, well, how much, I mean, are they talking? And the Healthy Room Project, we believe, is probably $15,000 to start the Healthy Room Project within the city of Escalon, but that leaves another $10,000 that we can apply for to move forward. And so I wanted to bring this item before council to gauge other ideas, what other council members felt, that other programs that we could apply the other $10,000 for. And all we have to do is write a letter. I mean, do we put $5,000 towards the youth center? Do we put $5,000 towards expanding rec programs to other after-school programs? I mean, honestly, it is completely wide open at this point, and all we have to do is write a letter. So just wanted to start discussion with that.
My first thought would be underprivileged youth that can't currently participate in sports in our youth programs, but not just necessarily for entrance fees, for maybe some equipment as well. Gloves and cleats and those kind of things aren't cheap, and those folks that are underprivileged can't afford that stuff. If it can be applied to a little bit of reduced tuition to get in, if you will, access to that, as well as some gear, that's my first thought in my first head anyways. There's other good ones out there as well.
Well, I think it's important after we have a discussion that we also open up to the
Oh, yeah,
public.
definitely.
Yeah, I would second that, Dave. I think having that available is key to these kids to be able to compete and on the same playing level.
Participate with the rest of the folks, yeah. That was my first thought when at risk. I'm not sure. There's other good places as well.
Sure, I'd like to see the program criteria, so we had a more educated idea of what was inbounds or out of bounds for the program, so that we could make sure that we thoroughly took advantage of the program and explored all of the different opportunities that could be available.
We can find a home for that extra 10. If we're putting 15 to the healthy room, that 10 will get sucked up in any program that's down.
So to address your point, Councilmember Engel, I asked for the criteria, and literally the representative from the San Joaquin County District Attorney's Office wrote an email back, and he said, the criteria is that the program has to be specifically for kids, and that they can't receive another alternate funding source from anywhere else within the county.
I'm sure the program has written documentation. I'd like to see that. I'm sure it's not a verbal agreement between the county.
I can certainly follow up with them and request that.
Yeah, it's a great idea, and if we can utilize funds, I think it's worthwhile.
Well, this is an agenda item request, so we can put this on the agenda so that we can have a formal conversation about that. That's what this is, this item is for, correct? I'd love to have this conversation and sleep on it and get some more creative ideas flowing. And I think we can come up with where this money we should attempt to put this money towards.
Sounds like we have consensus to put it on the next agenda then.
Isn't that
an accurate statement here for the council then?
I think so.
Yes, on this side.
You still take it to public comment, though.
What's that?
Still have to take it to public
All right.
comment.
Public comment on this item. Anybody?
25,000, how often?
I don't know if it's a one-time grant or if it's yearly.
Okay, I might have misunderstood. There's a forfeiture program that offers 25,000 for activities or whatever, resources. And then you have a friend in Modesto who's running a healthy room project, or the 25K has to go towards a healthy room project?
No, the Healthy Room Project is a national nonprofit organization.
I understand what it is. What I'm asking is the 25K, is that just what Modesto is doing, or will we be required to do that as well?
So I know the numbers are kind of crazy. So the 25,000 is the cap that we're allowed to apply for this asset forfeiture program through the county.
Understood.
Of that 25,000, to start the Healthy Room Project within the city of Escalon, we would take 15 of that 25,000.
I understand, not to cut you off, I'm sorry, but are we required to start the Healthy Room Project here?
No.
Or is this your idea?
The Healthy Room Project is
Bring
my
that to our
idea,
city?
yes.
Okay, I just personally don't see how we don't have enough kids that, or do we have enough kids that would benefit from?
I defer.
If that is something that I would like to know how it would be structured as somebody who would be in charge. Would it be the council or whatnot?
Is this the discussion for our agenda item for
Well, I
next?
mean,
I'm
she's
just
entitled
trying
to make whatever public
I know,
comment you
I'm
want, but as far as the council, we're gonna have a substantive discussion when it comes back. This is
Yeah,
just to get on the agenda for the next time,
Yeah.
but the public's allowed to make whatever comments they want, yeah.
I would just like to encourage that a lot of things go to sports, and I agree that for those that are less fortunate and can't afford and don't participate as a result, but I think the one thing our city lacks is something other than sports for our children. The youth center seems to be geared more towards the middle school kids. The high school kids, I can tell you, a lot of them in my neighborhood are out doing no good. And then we have not a lot of things but the park for littler kids. And I would just like to see if maybe we can think of more creative ideas that we could apply the money to.
That's why I wanted that as an agenda item, so we can just throw
No, I
ideas
think
out
it's a
there.
great idea. I think they should give more than that, because, they seize a whole lot more, but.
And to answer your question about who picks those families within the Healthy Room Project, the Healthy Room Project was started by law enforcement. And so I don't have experience on the Healthy Room Project, but I got chief involved because it's law enforcement to law enforcement. But I was thinking about, at least within the city of Escalon, expanding the Healthy Room Project to not just law enforcement, but also getting Escalon ambulance involved and also possibly the fire department. Because what happens is after they go in and they do a room survey, then the police officers and maybe the fire and members of the community come in, they paint the walls, et cetera,
That
et
was what
cetera.
I was saying. I do woodworking, custom woodworking, and if that is something we're gonna bring to the town, I would love to, at the cost solely of material, be able to build beds for kids and dressers and contribute any way that I can as well. I think it's a great program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My question is, most kids who are living in a poor environment are in homes that are rented or in apartments. So how can you go into somebody who's renting a house or renting an apartment and fix up a room when the people that you're trying to help don't own that property? So
You have to talk to the.
it's something you need to look into.
Yeah, I think I can answer that. So primarily, it deals with getting them furniture, getting them dressers, getting them beds, and just a healthy environment so they can study. They can have a place that's kind of secluded and give them a little bit of privacy. And as far as painting, the only kind of structural stuff that requires landlord approval is painting, and we always make sure that we get the landlord's approval, or the tenant is supposed to get the landlord's approval to paint.
That makes sense. Okay. Thank you.
But primarily, it's furniture and
thank you.
accessories.
Okay. Anybody else?
But if any of the member of the public, like Ms. Vargas or anybody else has any other ideas, watch for the agenda. You can come and share those ideas. You can reach out to me, send me an email. I mean, that's what this is all about, is getting community buy-in and see what we can do to move forward.
Any other comments tonight other than that item?
Yes, actually, one other one. So I was approached by a group of seniors who would like to see a senior yoga program at the community center. So I would like, typically what happens, at least this council's vision on anything related to the seniors is we look at discounting the rate or allowing the use for free of the community center. And so this program is proposed on Wednesday mornings from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. And I would like to also add an agenda item request for council consideration to waive the fees of the use of the community center from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. to allow the use of this senior yoga program.
Mayor, we really can't have the.
Sorry.
I know, that's what I was trying to.
Yeah.
Do we have consensus or other, we need one more person if we want to put something like that on the agenda?
Yeah, I'm
We
fine
have-
discussing it. I don't have,
Okay,
doesn't sound like anything.
let's go ahead and put it up for discussion on our next agenda item then. Okay. Councilman Walker, tonight, what you got for us?
Sure. Very productive meeting today, everybody. First, thank you to Mr. Christensen for bringing the American Legion to the halls today. And I'll make sure to get a card today. But just make sure public be aware, our volunteers are dwindling, and if you're a veteran, this is a great one because it's a social club, and it sounds like it's a lot of fun, but you can do a lot of good as well. And we see a lot of results from American Legion and in our parades and in our public, and so I would hate to see one more of our organizations just go to the wayside just because you're afraid to take a step out the door. So thank you, Mr. Christensen, for coming out today. And then also, so next, make sure you're taking a look at the tax measure that will be upon us as counselors. We will be looking to inform and educate when you are needed. So we'll have extra information, we have handouts, those types of things for the purpose of informing and educating. And it is step one. The tax measure is one step to get an income for our city. A lot of our surrounding cities are basing their income off of growth, off of building more homes, off of expanding. We're looking not to do that, and so that means we do need to be creative in how we're gonna have our income and how we can take care of our people. So this is one step, and you're right, the other step is we do need to make sure we are shopping local. We are bringing more businesses as we can to Escalon. If you can do business in Escalon, do business in Escalon. We have several commercial properties that are for sale, for lease on Highway 120. I know that there's been a few little bites, but if you know anybody that can give us some little bites or big bites, send them this way. And I would love to see us infill those where we can have some people driving through, stop, shop, and enjoy Escalon here and spend a little bit of money. And on that Wednesday, we have our farmers market. Our temperatures should be subsiding a little bit, so hopefully you guys can come on out. It's not just spending money downtown during our farmers market, but getting to know all of the businesses that are there, and then all of those businesses that are around downtown and Escalon, getting people to stop, enjoy each other. Once again, like our Main Street Park has always been a great community center for us. So please come out on Wednesday, and with that, I think that's it for me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Councilman Engel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had one question for staff. Staff, on Thursday when the agenda was sent out, I noticed that there were a couple of residents included on the email, and I'm just wondering, is that open for any of the residents to just ask for a copy of the agenda?
Yeah.
So if a resident, we want to make sure to get this out there public, right? So if a resident wants to receive this email so they can receive the agenda, what are the steps for them to follow?
I think they can just contact the city clerk, and she'll add her to her distribution list. Technically speaking, under state law, you have to request it every year, but
so it would be annual? They can request it, it's
yes,
good for one year? Okay. Very good. Thank you. That's all I have.
That's all? Mayor Pro Tem, what do you have tonight?
It definitely was a good meeting. I think that as far as the tax stuff is concerned, obviously as a business owner, I don't like taxes. But I also know that there's, times and a place when you're in a rock and a hard place. So sometimes you have to, unfortunately, do things you don't ideally like to do for the greater good of our community. So this is one of those times I see. We've cut the budget down. What else can you do? Well, you have sales tax and you have growth, right? So the lesser of two evils is the sales tax, in my opinion. And obviously having a short-term and long-term game plan. And unfortunately, long-term game plans take time to, implement, and we don't have a decade to do that. So because the government does move slower than private industry. So this is one of those times where you have to kind of, basically reset the foundation so that you can move forward in a way that's going to allow for a good future as far as the community is concerned. One where we can, direct our own destiny, and we can maintain our quality of life that we have here currently. So I think it's something that hopefully, as much as we don't like taxes, people will look internally and understand that this is one of those times where we need to right the ship. I think it's mission critical, so to speak. Outside of that, I would, I think seeing Lieutenant Colonel Christensen come in, I appreciate you doing that. That's a good thing to try to build that program back up. So if there's anything I can help you with, let me know. Other than that, I think have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you for that. I'm going to echo something very similar to that. In the interest of trying to maintain the small town that we have, we've all kind of beat up that budget in one way or another here, and this is kind of where we're at with that. And I think the 1% sales tax, to clearly state that that is local control of the revenue coming in from that sales tax, is probably the biggest thing that's kind of pushed us in that direction, that we can control that revenue that will come in and still maintain, like we said, without going through the idea of growth as far as, making the city larger than we want. We want to keep it as small as we can. That being said, I agree with Councilman Walker. We need to look at some retail opportunities that can bring in some more sales tax as well to continue to grow the fiscal responsibility and the safety nets that we want to put in place so that we can provide the services that we want to this community. Also on top of this, farmers market, support everybody we can on Wednesday. We do not have a meeting until next month, so I want to make sure that we are not remiss in stating that Park Feed is this coming up, short order here. We had a great 4th of July. It sounds like we had a pretty safe and a reasonable 4th of July. Looking forward to all the activities for Park Feet. So come on out, support all the vendors and all the folks that come out for the Park Feet, and do what we can to have a great time as we do every year for that event. So with that, I am going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Thank everybody for coming out, and we'll see you next time.
Closed session.
So I'm sorry, we do have a closed session. We will come back if there is anything to report. My apologies.
Okay, he's got it down to the.
There's one.
Oh, yeah, I got it.
One more.
Just making sure.
There's two.
So, all right, welcome back, everybody. We're back from closed session with no reportable action. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Meeting adjourned.
And I still indulge.
Got some things for you to say.